In math, when looking at parabolas, there are three forms of quadratics or equations that we use to represent them. There is standard, there is factored, and then there is the vertex form. Standard form is usually written as f of x is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. In terms of the a value, if a is larger than 0, the graph would concave up, and if a was smaller than 0, the graph would concave down. In terms of the b value, it can help with a simple equation which tells us the axis of symmetry of the parabola, and it's going to be x equals negative b over 2a. In terms of the c value, c is equal to the y-intercept of the graph. For example, if we have the equation f of x is equal to x squared minus 4x minus 3, the a value is equal to 1, the b value is clearly 4x, and c is 3. The first piece of evidence that we are given is the concave of the graph, which is positive and only by 1, meaning it will not be very fat or skinny. To find the axis of symmetry, we need to use our equation, which in this case would have to be x is equal to negative b, which in this case is negative 4, so it will be a positive 4, over 2a, which in this case is 1, so it's that over 2, meaning that x equals 2. So our axis of symmetry, or center point of the graph, will be at 2. And lastly, we know c gives us the y-intercept, so now we can get to our graph. In this case, c is at negative 3, so we go down 1, 2, and negative 3, right about there. And then we know that the the axis of symmetry is at 2, which is this entire spot right here. And after that, we know that it concaves up, so then we can begin graphing. When graphing with this equation, you can only get so much information without finding the vertex. From the information we have now, it's pretty easy to assume the graph will look something like this. Factored form is usually written as f of x is equal to a times x minus r1 times x minus r2. In terms of a, it's just the same. If a is larger than 0, the graph concaves up, and if a is smaller than 0, the graph concaves down. With factored form, instead of a b value, there is r1 and r2, which can also be used to find the axis of symmetry, just as a b value. In this case, it would be x is equal to r1 plus r2 over 2. Since there is no c value, the special thing about factored form is instead of finding the y-intercept, it gives you the x-intercepts, which in this case would be r1 and r2. Remember, the graphs are parabolas, so that means it will be crossing the x-axis most of the time, at least twice, and that's why there's 2 of them listed. For example, if you have the problem 1.2 times x plus 2 times x minus 9, the a value would be 1.2. R1 value would be minus 2 because it's the negative of the original, and the R2 value would be plus 9 since it is again the negative of the original. Since the a value is larger than 1, it'll be a positive value and concave up. Not only that, it'll be a little skinnier than an average graph due to the fact that it's even higher than 1. Now you're going to do the equation. X is equal to R1, which in this case is going to be negative 2, plus R2, which in this case will be positive 9, divided by 2. So that's going to be 9 minus 2, which is 7. 7 divided by 2 is equal to 3.5. So that is our B value. Since the A value is positive, the graph will be going up. Since we know the B value, the axis of symmetry, we'll mark that with a highlighter right about here around 3.5. And then we know the two x-intercepts, which are going to be 9 and about 2. Well, negative 2. Right there. Since we have those, we can make the general estimation about our graph, which look like that. Vertex form is usually written as f of x is equal to a times x minus h squared plus k. Just as before, in terms of a, if a is greater than 0, the graph will concave up, and if a is less than 0, the graph will concave down. Now when trying to find the axis of symmetry, x is just equal to h. Now instead of having the y-intercept or the two x-intercepts, we now have the vertex of the graph, which is written as h, comma, k. For example, if we have the problem f of x is equal to 0.4 times x minus 2 squared minus 7, we know that a is greater than 0, which means that the graph will concave up, but it's going to be a fatter graph due to the fact that it's lower than 1. And the axis of symmetry for the graph is 2, because h is equal to 2. And then the vertex of the graph is 2, comma, negative 7. So for graphing it, we would go to 2 and negative 7 and place the vertex, which should be right about there. We know the axis of symmetry is along the line of 2. And we also know that the graph concaves up, so it would look something like this.